My name is Lorraine Warren. My husband Ed and myself were called by Janet Smurl to this home that we are now in just prior to the Christmas holiday, the early part of December. On January the 17th, we visited this home for the very first time, interviewed the families concerning the phenomena that was taking place to them. The phenomena began quite a while ago, but began to climax at this time. We are in their home again today on February 14th, 1986. Jack, can you give us your full name, the name of family members living here, and also your family pet, and when you moved to this home?
Well, my name is Jack Smurl. My wife Janet Smurl. We have Dawn, daughters Dawn, Heather, Shannon, Karen, our twins.
And how old are the children?
Dawn is 16 years old. Heather is 13. Shannon and Karen are 7. We have Simon, our dog. He's a German Shepherd. He's 3 years old. And next door we have my mother and my father, Mary and John Smurl.
In a duplex home.
Right, in a duplex home. And my father's 71 and my mother is 72.
All right, and when did you purchase this home, and how soon after purchasing this home did you move in? If I'm not mistaken, your parents moved in first, and then you moved in soon after, is that right? That they were the first to move in? I thought I remembered that. Do you remember the date?
Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
No, it's just the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Right. We moved in first, and then they moved in.
Okay.
Right.
And how long ago, Janet?
1973, I believe.
You moved in. How far apart did you people move in? How close to
I can tell you.
I don't know.
We moved in here in October
Yes.
of 73.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and father moved in here in December of 73.
Oh, very close together, just a matter of a couple of months.
Correct.
That's right.
How long were you in this home with your family before you became aware of the fact that things of a paranormal nature were occurring?
Approximately 1 year ago.
1 year ago, in 1985,
Yes.
you became aware that something paranormal was taking place. What preceded it? What do you feel might have triggered it? Was there any Ouija boards that were played with in this home? Was any of the children involved in any way with drug traffic, or the seances held in the home? Anything of this nature that took place in the house?
Not to our knowledge.
Not to your knowledge, with any of the children, or certainly not with yourself. What is your background, Jack? What type of work do you do?
Well, I'm a production manager at Todd's Chewing Gum.
Mm-hmm.
I've been employed there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And what are your interests outside of your work in your home?
Well, I was active in the girls' softball league. I was, I'm treasurer. We formed the league, actually, myself and Janet and, of parents in the town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we've been maintaining the league since. It's been going on for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we're quite successful. And also the Lions Club.
You're active in the Lions
Yes.
Club. Mm-hmm.
And Janet was active in the Lions Club. She was president for 2 years. Janet was the first president of the Lions Club. And then
Now that's the female counterpart.
That's the female counterpart.
Right.
Of the Lions.
First I joined the Lions, then Janet
Joined the Lions.
joined the Lions. When we formed the Lions, when I got into the Lions Club, I made the suggestion that we form a Lions Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, from that, the Lions Club was formed, and Janet was picked as first president for the first year, and then, of course, she was president for the second year.
But this usually don't happen to lionesses, this type of phenomena.
No.
How did you people feel concerning the type of phenomena that's occurring in this home to you? If this story was told to you prior to this happening, would you find it hard to believe that such things occurred?
Yes. As a matter of fact, up until a year ago, I thought that these type things only happen in movies, and I always felt, of course, that movies were, always overstated to begin with. So I wasn't really a true believer. Of course, I believed in God, and I believed in angels, and I believed in devils. So, but I never thought, that these things truly happened to people.
That they manifested to this extent,
Correct.
where the evil could become personified.
Correct.
As it occurs in many of these instances. Your religious background, both of you, is Roman Catholic, am I right?
Right.
The phenomena that first began to happen to you happened to you as a boy, didn't it, Jack, as a child?
Yes, did. We used to live in what they call the Heights section of Wilkes-Barre, okay, which is about 10 miles from here. And when I was about 9 years old, one evening I got up to go to the bathroom, and I walked in the hallway, and I was passing the stairway, and when I looked down, I saw two pair of eyes staring at me. Now, the eyes weren't moving or anything or blinking, and they had no body or any form to them, just two pairs of eyes. And I got frightened, so I went into my sister's room to try and wake her up, and I couldn't wake her up. I couldn't budge her. Anything I'd do to her, I was pushing her, I was pulling her, I was trying everything, and I couldn't get her attention.
How old was your sister at that time?
My sister was about 11 years old. She's 2 years older than I am, and I just couldn't wake her up. It was the first time it ever happened to me, and it was the last time up until
You're as an adult.
as an adult. So I never had any problems since then.
That was an old home that you lived in as a child?
Yes, it was exactly. We lived in a double block, and it was built exactly the same as this house is right now.
A duplex home.
Exactly the same built. I mean, the rooms are exactly the same, the attic's the same, the whole house is the same. The only difference is that we used to live on where my mother lives now, next door here, when we lived up there.
So this must have, aside from being a very homely, lovely home, it had special homey feeling to you.
Yes.
Being reminiscent of your childhood home. How old is this house that we're in?
The house is about, best we can guess is, we didn't look at the deed, but it must be about 90 years old, this one.
90?
About 90 years old.
90 years old.
It was built in the late 1800s.
Now, the homes in this general locale where we are there other homes that are about as old as this home is?
No. When we were talking to Mr. Ellis, which Janet wasn't, there when we were talking to him, this was the first house on this street. On all sides and in the back was a field. The homes in the back weren't even here at that time. And across the street was just one big field. So this was the first house that was built on this street.
This home was more or less by itself
Correct.
for a period of time until the other homes. The very first thing that happened in this home happened to you, I believe, Janet.
That's correct.
Before Jack was to ever witness anything, the first occurrence took place to you. Tell us something about it, and to the best of your knowledge, when you first remember that occurring.
That was the night of Heather's confirmation. That was on April the 29th, 1985. Heather and Shannon and myself were in the kitchen, and I was pinning her collar onto her her confirmation robe. And we have a 4-foot by 2-foot ceiling light, and it came without no warning at all. In a matter of a split second, it came crashing down onto the kitchen table.
That must have been very frightening.
It was very frightening because we didn't know. It was unexpected, and it wasn't like a light that had broken naturally. It didn't tip, it didn't sway, it just came crashing down. And it gouged Shannon on the forehead, and it gouged a mark onto the refrigerator. And this was about a half an hour before we went to church.
Now that light is held up by 2 chains.
Right.
And then there
And 2 eye hooks.
and 2 eye hooks folded into the beam.
Into the beams. And when my father-in-law came over and looked at it, because he's very, very handy with these kind of things, he looked at it, he said, there is no way that this thing could have happened. One side would have broken, something would have given first, but this was nothing. In a matter of a split second, it crashed onto the table with no warning at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now, when was it, Janet, that you were down in the basement?
The very next day after the confirmation, I was down in the basement doing clothes. I have my washer and dryer down there. And I had turned away from the washer. I was just getting ready to come upstairs to the kitchen. And I heard this female voice. And she said, Janet, Janet, very clear. And I thought it was my sister. I said, I'll be right up. Well, when I got to the top of the steps, of course, there was no one there. And I was alone in the house. The front door was locked. There was no way that anybody could have gotten into this house.
Were you very uneasy with
I
that?
thought in the beginning, I thought, oh, it's only you. You're hearing things. That's exactly how I felt, that I had heard something.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, now also, Janet, I remember you relating to us about coming up from doing the laundry and a pole lamp. You don't have that pole lamp, honey.
No, it's not a pole lamp. Well, it's a table lamp. There it is right there.
All right.
Went over in the corner.
And about that going on, the light, finding the lights on in the house when you knew, you know,
Right.
especially during the day.
That particular day, the children had gone off to school, and it was kind of dreary. It was a rainy type of morning gray. So the light was on.
Mm-hmm.
When the children went out to school, and it brightened up in the room, so I turned the light out. I went upstairs to make the bed and collect the laundry, and when I came down, the lamp was on again. And I stopped and I thought, didn't I turn that light out? So I turned the light off again. I went into the kitchen and did the dishes, and I was going down to do the laundry, and I came up and the light was on again. This happened about 4 or 5 times within an hour that light kept going on. Now, that is a 3-way light, but we keep regular light bulbs in it because the kids always knock it over, and we're always replacing the light bulbs.
And 3-way bulbs are expensive.
Right, so you would have to turn the light 2 times before.
Oh, it goes on.
Right, before, you just don't go over and, it's not 3-way now.
Mm-hmm.
But that light would always be on. So it would have to click twice before the light, and I didn't do it, and there was no one here to turn the light on.
Now, also, you would go out to the store. You would be away from the house. You would lock all of your doors. You
Yes.
make a point of
I
locking.
make a point of locking everything, all the doors, the front door and the back door, and you need a key to get in. This one particular day, I went to the store, and I came home. The front door was unlocked and pushed over to the wall.
Not just a jar.
Not just ajar, pushed
Mhm.
over. So I got a little bit upset. I thought, oh my gosh, somebody's in the house. Well, when I came in, of course, there was nobody here. Now, that happened many times with the door. This one particular day, again, we were getting ready to go camping, so I went to the store. And, of course, all the children were in school.
Mhm.
And as I was pulling up in front of the house, my nephew was coming in the front door, and I could see that the door, again, was pushed right over to the wall. So I thought Don had come in from school. It was around 2:15, 2:30. And I thought, well, maybe Don's home now. So I was coming into the door about 2 seconds after my nephew, and he's standing just about right here, and he's hollering for Don. And I said, is she home? He said, she must be, Aunt Janet, the door's open. So I hollered for her. I said, Don, no answer. And I looked, because she always puts her books down in a certain place, and I looked, and her purse was not there. I said, she's not here. And in that period of time, Don came into the house. Now, no one else was here. You need a key to get in, and yet the door was wide open.
Now, you've also had experiences where you will leave the dog outside because of what is occurring in this house.
Right.
And the effect that it is having on your German Shepherd, and you will come home and the dog is in the house.
That has happened twice to me and once to Dawn, where the dog was, either we knew the dog was outside, we had let him out before. I always let him out if I'm going somewhere and I'm not going to be home. I came home, he was in. Or I know he's in, and the next thing I know, he's out. And that is very upsetting. And of course, the two doors in the back are shut. So something opened the door and let him out.
Now, your mother, Jack, would never come here like during the day and leave the doors open, or she would never let the dog in and out. There'd be no reason why your mother would ever do anything like that. She doesn't come in and out of your house. You seem to respect each other's privacy. There has been other strange experiences with Simon, your German Shepherd. On one occasion, after you had had a very frightening experience in your bathroom where you felt that you were being pushed, Jack was sitting at the top of the stairway. It isn't a really wide stairway by any means, the stairwell itself. And one of our researchers was down a few steps talking to you. You noticed the dog go by the back of you, so you knew the dog was upstairs. But then, wasn't there a period of time that you felt that the dog was in the bedroom, in the master bedroom, just a little too long, and you called, and he came up from downstairs? Is that, am I relating that experience as it actually took place? In other words, for some reason, the dog was transported from the upstairs downstairs without having never gone by you, and you were sitting there, and this researcher was being very much aware of what was taking place.
Right, because where Jack was sitting and where Mike was standing, they would have had to move to let the dog down the stairwell. And they weren't. I mean, he was down here and they were upstairs.
Now, there has been many strange experiences with the dog while we're on the subject of the dog. One in particular where you heard this howl coming from the dog, and the dog was sleeping right next to you on the floor. You put your hand on top of the animal, and you realized that it was not coming out of your dog at all. Relate that experience, Jack, as it occurred to you in the bedroom.
Okay, one night we were laying in bed, we weren't sleeping as yet, and Simon started to howl. And it wasn't like a normal howl, okay? It was like something I would describe from the graveyard type. Very hair-raising type howling, and lasted for a long time, over a minute, okay? And what I tried to do first was I tried to take my hand off of the bed to pet Simon, and something was holding my hand back, and I couldn't move it. It was
something just invisible, though.
Right, and I couldn't move my hand, and so I kept trying to push it forward, but I couldn't do it. So I pulled it the opposite way, and it finally let go. Then I put my hand on Simon, and the howling continued all this time. I put my hand on Simon, and Simon was fast asleep. He was laying on his side with all four legs, on the, like on his side, fast asleep, very unaware of what was going on.
Certainly was not coming from the animal.
No, and no part of his body was moving at all. I had my hand right on his stomach, towards his shoulders, and there was no movement in Simon whatsoever.
Would you say that the majority of the phenomena that happens in this side of the house, now I'm aware that it happens on both sides, both in the other half of this duplex where your parents live, as well as this side where you live with your 4 children. Would you say the majority of the phenomena takes place in the upstairs?
About 80% of it.
About 80% of it. Is it limited to one particular room?
Upstairs?
Yes, it was.
In the beginning, it was limited to our bedroom.
To the master bedroom.
Right. That's where the dog was making this strange noise, and the closet door would open and shut.
All right, explain that incident.
In the springtime, you would be up in the bedroom, and our bedroom closet door is a louvered door that does not have a handle to open and close like a regular door. It is a louvered door that comes together in the middle. You push it this sideways, and the door comes together this way. It's on a hinge, and it's on a rod at the top. We have tried to do this many times, and we thought it was very strange. This door would open and shut, and there is no way. We can't do it. We've tried to do it, and it's impossible. You cannot open the door and pull it back. You have to push it in the middle.
It's on a track, in
It's
other
on a
words.
track. The door hinges out towards you, almost like
An accordion.
like an accordion.
How fast would you say that is going?
Oh, it was going very fast. It would be going like this, back and forth, and you cannot do that. There is no way that you can do that. In the beginning, it would open the door and just leave it in that position. So I would go over and close the door, and it would do it again. But this one particular day, I was getting dressed, and I was sitting on the bed, and I was putting my shoes on, and this door started to go back and forth, back and forth. So I hollered at this thing. I said, "Will you knock it off? I'm in no mood for you today." And the door shut.
Listen to you.
So then I got up and I started to do something, and it opened and shut and opened and shut. And I said, "Didn't I tell you to knock it off?" And it went, shh, door closed. It's totally impossible. My husband has tried to do that, and there is no way that you can do that with that door.
Okay, now you have also had numerous occasions in all parts of this house, on both sides, especially during the nighttime hours, where you are experiencing pounding and sometimes knocking sounds.
Knocking.
Not all pounding. Sometimes you will hear them at the front door, feeling that somebody is
Is
at
there.
the door. How many pounds or how many knocks are usually associated with one particular incident?
As of the last couple of months, most knocks are in threes. 3 knocks on the front door.
3, of course, is a very magical number, and many times the phenomena that occurs in these homes does occur in threes.
3 knocks on the back of the commode. 3 knocks in the corner of a room. 3 knocks up in the bedroom between the 2 double mirrors on our dresser where there is a crucifix. Now this just happened as of late, and that disturbs me because it never bothered a religious item before. Now it has banged under a crucifix, and it has banged in the center of a rosary that hangs from my oldest daughter's bed.
In other words, it doesn't really like the religious things
Right.
that are in the rooms at all. Now, when the pounding occurred, I remember your father, Jack, relating one incident where it took place on a night table and really can awake you, from a sound sleep, a real pounding type noise. How often do these occur? Can you give me some incidents of that?
Well, they just had one the other night, and they had one a couple weeks ago where it was unusually loud, like somebody dropped maybe something from the ceiling or from the attic. Terribly loud, like crashing, banging, really, really loud, because my father-in-law is almost stone deaf. And for him to hear this, it would have to be abnormally loud, and they were both frightened.
Okay, now what time of night would you say this occurred?
Oh, after 11 o'clock.
Would this be limited to the other side of the house, to the senior Smurls, or have you also experienced that on this half of the house?
The loudness like that? I don't know if it was that loud on our side.
Right. It's happened over my mother's twice. Okay. We've never had that real one sudden bang pound. We usually have rappings in multiples, and not that loud. Not that terrifying, I should say.
No.
Because you got to keep in mind that my father is about 60% deaf, and the night it happened, it woke him up. He's 60% deaf, and he was also sound asleep, and he's a deep sleeper. And he went about, in his words, he went about a foot or 2 off the bed.
I bet he did.
And it's really startled him. Okay, now for him to hear it, it had to be tremendously loud. Okay, and we heard nothing on our side, and we were also in bed at the same time.
Now, your mother on the other side also was explaining to us about seeing something she described as like a small black animal that was walking around the house, or that she happened to see when she was either going upstairs to go into bed. I think she was going upstairs to go into bed. And she described this small black, like a small animal, when she was putting out the lights. Do you happen to remember that incident?
Well, when she realized what she had seen, she was upstairs in the bedroom. But the first time that she saw this thing, she was watching television. My father-in-law was playing cards. And she had all the lights out in the room except for the television, which is bright.
Yes,
It throws off the light. And she said all of a sudden, this black animal ran right past her to the corner of a love seat that she has in her living room. The love seat is also a bed. It opens up into a bed, so that the bottom comes completely to the floor, maybe about an inch off of the floor. She said this thing stopped, and she said like it ran under or into the couch. But she said there's no way it could go under the couch because there is not enough room. She tried to move it away from the wall. She couldn't see any animal or anything. She said all she could see is the back end of that. It had no tail, and she couldn't see the face or a head. And then around Christmas time, she has this ceramic bowl that she keeps on her coffee table in the living room. And during the Christmas holiday, her and Jack were upstairs and her upstairs, and she had this on a little table in the hallway, and all of a sudden she said, "Oh my God, this is kind of like what I saw run past me in the living room."
In other words, about that size.
About that size. And she said the legs were the way the legs were shaped, basically is what she saw. But she said she did not see a tail or a head, a face.
All she could see was the small black thing that went running. Relate some of the other incidents that have occurred in this home. Not necessarily in the order that they have occurred in, but if you can relate some of the experiences that both of you have had in the home, and then I will hopefully help you to try to elaborate on them and try to explain them as they have occurred. Not in
Want to
any,
go first?
yeah, not in any simultaneous order.
Well,
Don't worry about that.
I think the very first thing that ever happened in this house that I can remember is one night I was laying in bed, and I always sleep on my right side. And I was laying there, and I never sleep with the covers over my shoulders. I always sleep with my arm on the outside. And Janet sleeps on my right side, so I was facing Janet and away from our closet that we had so many problems with at the beginning. And it felt like someone just touched me on the shoulder. Now
Just like a light touch.
like a light touch, but I could feel fingers. Not one finger, but several fingers. It was a distinct touch of a hand on my shoulder. I then turned around and looked, and I had no reason to suspect, anything of a ghost nature, because we hadn't had, any problems prior to that. And I was looking around to see what could have touched me, and there was nothing in that area that could have touched me. And of course, there was a sequence of events after that where one night I came home from work and I parked my car in the driveway, and because the driveway is so narrow, I park next to the house so that there's room enough to get out on the driver's side between the car and the fence. And I make sure that I park it against the house because I simply have to, because I can't get out. Next morning I come out of the house and it was pouring down rain, and I was running to the car, and I went to get in the car, and I couldn't get in the car because the car was against the fence.
All right, now I remember your mother relating that experience to us, where she heard you pull up. And was it your mother that had said something about actually thinking that she could see the car move,
Correct.
she could see it and thought her eyes were playing tricks on her.
Right.
And when you went to get in the car was right close to the fence. There would have been no way you could have got out of the car.
That's correct.
And no way that you could have parked the car in that type of an angle.
That's correct.
Am I right?
That's correct.
All right. Now, what other incidents, Janet, can you think of?
Well, I have been pulled out of bed.
Oh, yes.
I have been, after your first visit, I was hit. It hit me.
What part of your body did it hit?
Always my legs or my feet.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was about in June. It was very warm this one night, and I couldn't fall asleep. And all of a sudden, I heard these voices. And they were very loud, very clear. They were saying, female voices, one woman was saying, "How many times do I have to tell you? I'm sick and tired of telling you. What am I going to do with you?" And she carried on and on. So I thought it was my mother-in-law. I thought, what is she doing at 20 to 1 in the morning, hollering at my father-in-law?
But that wouldn't be characteristic of her.
No, it's not like her at all. And especially him, once he goes to sleep,
There's no communicating.
no, you can't wake him up. So I got up and I thought maybe it's the neighbors. So I looked out of the window and all the homes were in darkness.
So you knew it couldn't be
So
coming from any of the homes.
Right, so I got back into bed and I could hear this terrible walking up and down the hallway, very heavy, like somebody weighed 400 or 500 pounds. Terrible, frightening walk. And I laid there and I was scared to death. And I thought, am I the only one that hears this?
Mm-hmm.
You must be going crazy. So it stopped and I got up out of bed and I came down here
All by yourself.
all by myself and I opened the kitchen window because it was very warm and I came in here. Simon came with me and I had a cigarette and I thought, well, I'll just wait a while. And as I'm sitting here, the heavy walking was continuing.
Back and forth
Back
in your
and
home.
forth in the hallway, and I thought, am I crazy? My whole family's upstairs. So I put the ashtray on the kitchen table and I left the window open. That's how I knew I wasn't dreaming in the morning. When I went back upstairs to bed and I got in, it was banging like somebody had fists and was banging it on top of our triple dresser in the bedroom. I tried to wake Jack up. No way could I wake him up. I had my whole body wrapped around him, trying to pull him to awaken him, and I couldn't.
This is what we refer to, of course, as phantomania, or psychic paralyzation. That was what occurred to you, Jack, probably as a child, when you had tried to awaken your sister when you were so frightened. And you shook her, and there was just absolutely no way that you could bring her out of that very unnatural deep sleep that she was in. This is now occurring to you, Janet, when you are trying to awaken your husband.
And that's happened many times where I could not awaken him. And after I laid there, the dog was very restless. He kept pacing back and forth, back and forth. He came over to me because he knew I was awake, and he put his mouth on my arm, and he tried to pull me out of the bed.
The dog did.
Right, now he has done this in the bathroom too, where he has tried to pull me out of the bathroom. And then he laid down on my side, which is very odd. He always lays down on Jack's side of the bed. He laid down by me, and I petted him. I petted him for a while. Like he did not want to leave my side. And I could not understand why. I was the only one in this house that heard all this all night. It was all night this carried on.
Now, most likely, the other members of the family were in this phantomania state because it was meant to occur to you. It was meant to frighten you. It was reaching out to you, and it was meant to do it in a terrifying manner. Because if everybody was involved in it, it would not have proved as frightening. So the fear that you set off into the atmosphere enabled what was here to become stronger and stronger during that particular episode that was occurring.
And then there was the time, oh, the next morning I said to him, I explained to him everything that had happened the night before, and he said, oh, it did not. I said, I will tell you if I was dreaming. And I went into the kitchen, and there, the kitchen window was open, and there was the ashtray right where I had left it. I said, Jack, I know I was not dreaming.
Okay, now you were doing that in order to help yourself to be in touch with reality.
That I knew that this was
You were
not a
physically
dream,
here.
that I was here.
That you were physically in this room with the animal during the
Right.
night by yourself.
Right,
And
because I really did. There were times when I thought I was losing my mind. I would be sitting at the kitchen table, and I would be making a store list out. The front door would open, slam, and this voice would say, Janet! And again, it was a female voice. I would say, come on in, I'm in the kitchen. Nobody came, so I got up, I came in here, doors closed. But yet it has done that many times, opened the door and slammed it. And the voice. Now, all summer long, it would call me, Mom,
Mom?
Mom, Mom. And I would say, what? And there, of course, there would be nobody here, and I would be running from room to room. The one night Jack was over talking to his mother, and the two older girls were in the kitchen, and the two younger ones were outside playing. And I was coming out of the bathroom, and this voice is saying, Honey! And that's what Jack does to me when he's fooling around. And I'm saying, what? What? Well, no answer. I go down to the bedroom. He's not there. I come downstairs. I said, what does your father want? Where is he? Dad's not here. He's next door at Grandma's. So I asked him, I said, were you yelling up to me? He said, no. Most of the time, it is a female voice that I hear.
Okay. Now, how long ago was it that you were in your bathroom and you had, I believe you had a towel around you, you were getting ready to take a shower or a bath, and you felt physically pushed towards the bathroom?
That was over on Grandma's side.
That was on Grandma's side.
Grandma was washing, and she felt that she had a towel around her, that she was being pushed
Into the...
towards the tub, and she has the safety bars, and she said she was holding on to the safety bar
It was that frightening.
because she really thought she was going to go into the tub. Now, I have been, as of recently, one night I went up to take a bath because I don't take showers anymore. I have been scalded a couple of times. And as I was sitting in the tub, I could hear this whistling in the bathroom. So I immediately called for Jack. Came up and I said, there's whistling here. He looked, I said, look outside, maybe there's somebody, the man in the back is out, and he said, there's nobody around. Then a night or two after that, Dawn was up getting dressed, and it was whistling in her bedroom. So it has been whistling, and whistled over Jack's mother's side. This was just all in the last 2 weeks with the whistling. The humming, it's been humming, trying to almost like sing a song.
Now that's new, that type of
This
thing?
is all within the last, well, Christmas time it did hum and it did whistle during the Christmas holidays.
You also have a lot of incidents in the home where you hear water running. Now, you went over to check your mother's toilet and found that it had flushed. How many times did you say at one time?
It was me. I was in our side, and I was taking a shower. And after I got done taking a shower, I was, wiping down, and I was getting ready to get out of there, and I could hear the water running over my mother's. So I said to Janet, I says, come here for a second. And she came and she said, that's water running, but it's your mother's toilet. So when she mentioned it, then I kept the mirror next to the wall, and sure enough, the running water would last for maybe 20 seconds, and then it would stop. And then it would be a matter of another 20 seconds, there would be nothing, and then the water would run again. So I was standing there listening, and as I was getting dressed and everything, I just paid attention, and sure enough, it was in cycles. The water would run, and then it would stop, and then it would be a period of time in between, and it would flush again. So then I could hear, I put my ear really close to the wall, I could hear the commode flushing. So I got dressed, and while the time I was in there, I must have did it 30 times.
About 30 times.
About 30 times. And then when I came downstairs, I grabbed a hold of Don, and Don and I went over to my mother's, and I had to open the door with the key. We went up to my mother's bathroom, and while we were standing there, it did it right in front of our faces. So what I did was
You actually seen this happen
yes,
in front of
yes,
you?
right. So what I did was I leaned over and I took the back of the cover off the tank, and as I leaned over, it wrapped 3 times on the back of the tank. So me and Don just stood there looking at each other, and then I looked into the tank and I pulled the ball up, and then I dropped it down again, and after that it stopped. Okay?
Completely.
Completely. So I leaned over to put the cover back on. It wrapped 3 more times. Then it seemed Dawn and I. It just seemed like it left the bathroom. It knocked 3 times up inside the shower wall. Then it knocked outside in the hallway, and then it seemed like it headed down towards my mother's room because of the way the knocking were, and it kept knocking all the way down.
All the way down the hallway.
Right.
Now, Jack, you have had numerous disappearance of objects in this house. Some things have been returned, like things of the children's, but there have been very important things of yours that have not been returned. Can you tell us some of the incidents personally to you, and then allow Janet to relate some of the things that have happened to her and the children where disappearance of objects are concerned?
Sure. I had a bracelet. I had brain surgery 2 years ago, and I have a stainless steel bracelet that I wear, a medical alert bracelet, which says that, you know, I could have seizures, and that I am also allergic to penicillin. Okay, and it has a chain. It has a special lock on it. It's special made so you can't lose it. Okay, that's the reason for it. I never take this thing off except when I take a shower. Okay. Now, the one night I went up to take a shower, and I took my metal off, and I took my bracelet off. I put it on top of the towel cabinet in the bathroom. While I was sitting on the commode, I was cutting my toenails. I could hear 3 raps on the wall.
In the bathroom.
Right, but along with the 3 raps, with the first rap, I thought I could hear the ting of metal. It was like unusual. It was 3 raps on the wall, but yet on that first rap, there was like a tinging noise, like metal against metal.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
So I didn't pay any attention because this is common happenings in our house, so I continued to cut my toenails, and it rapped 3 more times. But this time it was just 3 raps, no metal noise.
No.
So I got in the shower, I took a shower, I come out, I put my metal on, I went to put my bracelet on, my bracelet was gone. I never left the bathroom, never opened the bathroom door. I took everything in the bathroom and I emptied it. I looked in the commode, looked in the waste paper basket, where the towels were, the hamper, moved everything, and it was nowhere to be found. Then it dawned on me that the first time I heard the rap,
You heard the pinging of
I heard the pinging, that the chain must have, when it picked it up, it must have pinged off of the top of the cabinet and it's gone.
And is that also metal, the cabinet?
Correct, correct.
That is also metal.
And I haven't seen it since. It hasn't come back.
No.
So that's basically, and then I was missing a white shirt, which was gone for about a year. That has never returned, okay? But along this same thing, it was right by the chimney. And now that's the chimney that used to be functional when they had the coal stove in the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay, it's no longer functional because when we had a new roof put on the house, we had it knocked off at the roof line.
All right.
So that the chimney is just basically just standing there, and it's of no use anymore. So Janet and I both had the feeling that possibly this could be the place, because this is where I heard the pinging noise, that this could possibly be the place that's storing these things. So on one Sunday, I took the ladder, we went up into the attic.
Tell me about the first time.
Well, the first time was, I think, was a weekend also. I went up to the attic, and we went back to we went up just generally to look in the attic to see if we could find any places where we could find any of this stuff. So we couldn't find anything. But while I was up in the attic, something made me feel that I had to go to the back of the house. So I went to the back of the house, and as I'm looking around in there, it dawns on me, and I'm looking at this chimney that stops at the roof line. So I got up on the ladder, a small ladder I had, and I couldn't get my head in there to look down with a flashlight because it wasn't cut off enough. And the bricks were too hard to pull off. The mortar was too hard.
Yeah.
So I said to
Been there a
Janet,
good many years.
right, and I said to Janet, I said, well, I said, I'm going to have to come up here with a hammer and a chisel and stuff, and I said, I'm going to have to take this thing apart because I said, you know, this mortar is like iron.
Right.
Because when this house was built, everything, even the walls, star drills wouldn't go through them. You know, it's very well
Yes.
built.
Uh-huh.
So about 2 weeks later, we got frustrated again with things missing. So we went back up to the attic. My daughter and Dawn and Janet was by the opening, but still on the ladder. And I went up there and I put the ladder up there, and I had the hammer and the chisel and all my tools ready. And I went up there, and the whole chimney is soaking wet all the way around.
And yet there's no way that water could get in there because
None.
it
And-
has no opening outside at all.
Right, and 2 weeks prior to that, it was as solid as iron. So now I just went up and I just started taking the bricks off by one, and when I hit all that was in between them was sand. There was no sign of mortar left at all, except 5 feet down, and then the rest was solid like it was 2 weeks prior. But from it was just like it was telling me, go ahead, take the chimney down.
Because it's not
You're not
there.
going to find anything anyway.
No.
And-
But to satisfy your curiosity.
Right, and it's still like that because when like the two researchers were here, when Mike and Tony were here, we went up into the attic. Now, one of the things in relationship to the chimney that we also noted was the first time we were up there, all the times we were up there, I should say, we noticed that when we were by the chimney, there was scratching on the roof, like there were a couple hundred birds or something scratching on the roof,
Or squirrels.
or squirrels or something like that.
Mhm.
We noticed that the first time we were up there. The second time my daughter got a little bit frightened because it was, you know, it's pretty loud noise.
Mhm.
And it isn't there when you first get there, you know, you have to wait a couple of minutes. And then of course when Charlie, the researcher, and Tony were up there with myself, the same thing happened to us again, like scratching all around up above us, okay?
But yet nothing was on the roof.
Nothing.
Well,
And the
nothing was on
first-
the roof.
The first time we even sent Heather out to the backyard, we said, Heather, go outside and look up on the roof and see if you can see any birds or, she said, no, there's nothing up there. But yeah, you could hear this, and it was loud, like a loud scratching.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a squirrel would make, it was really loud.
Like a cat or...
Even louder than, like a large animal. Very loud
And there would be
scratching.
no way that a large animal
No.
could get on that roof.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
Now, you had something disappear. I believe it was a piece of jewelry that has been returned, but it had like mortar dust on it
Yes.
when it came back. Is that what led you to think, Jack, that your medical bracelet might be in that chimney?
Yes.
Okay. What was it that you were...
These earrings, I've had a few experience with the earrings. It's not that they're very expensive because I do have expensive ones, but these were just maybe $10 or $15. But I liked them because of the way they were made. They were made so that a piece goes, it was all one piece. You didn't have to have a backing on it. The piece would go through your ear and it would have a special lock on the back. The first time I wore them, that I had something happen to them, we were camping, and it just so happened I had left them on at home. I didn't take them off. And well, we were there overnight. In the morning I got up, and I left them in my ears when I went to bed so I wouldn't lose them. In the morning, the earrings were gone. So we looked all over for them. Jack and the kids, we shook the sleeping bags. We took the whole place apart. We couldn't find them. In the meantime, I made breakfast. I was brushing the girls' hair. I went to do the dishes, and when I pulled my hands out of the dishwater, the earrings were slipped onto my finger.
Onto over your finger, like the rings.
Right,
Okay.
just like a ring.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them. And I thought, I would have seen it.
Of course.
I would have seen them long before this. So they were not on my hand when I got up in the morning. The second time they were missing, I had worn them on a Wednesday at home. And I took them off, and I have a place I put them because I wear them the most. When I went to get them on Friday, the earrings were gone. Could not find them. The kids looked. I said, well, maybe it took them and put them in your jewelry. We looked every place. Could not find the earrings. About 2 weeks later, I was getting ready to take a shower, and Jack's medical bracelet came into my mind. Maybe it took his medical bracelet and put it in his jewelry box. Because Jack has a little jewelry box where he keeps tie clips and cufflinks, but he never uses it. It could sit there for a year and he wouldn't open it.
You're a very informal man.
Yes. So I thought, that's an idea. So I went down into the bedroom and opened the jewelry box. And I let out one yell, because there in the front of his jewelry box, and now on top of his jewelry box he has American Rifleman magazines piled up, so you know it's not well used. And when I opened it up, there, as nice as you please, were my 2 earrings standing straight up side by side. When I took them out, they had like a coating on them, like a soot residue. I had to scrape it off the silver. Like almost like a pasty type. That's how, I don't know how long the earrings were sitting in there that way.
Now, also there have been things of the children. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was one of the older girls had a new pair of jeans that Dawn had laid out, and I think it was the younger girl's rosary beads.
Rosary beads. Dawn was getting ready for school this morning, and she came down in a fit because her new jeans that she had laid out on top were gone. And because there's such a difference of size, you can't even say, well, Heather took them, because Heather wouldn't fit into them. So I said, now, Dawn, they have to be here. She said, Mom, they're not. She said, I looked in the closet, I looked in the drawers, I looked in the bathroom. I said, well, maybe it's in the hamper, or maybe it's in the laundry basket. Could not find the jeans. When she came home from school that day, she went up to change her clothes. She opened the drawer, and they're right on top where the jeans again. Now, it has taken clothes. It has taken bathing suits where you look for them. It does take a lot of clothing. The incident with the rosary beads, Heather always had them in bed with her. I said to her, she said, they're gone. I said, Heather, well, you know, when you sleep, maybe it's in the pillowcase, maybe it fell down under the bed or through the side. No, Mom, I looked. So when they all went to school, I went upstairs. I stripped the beds down bare. I took the mattresses off, the mattress covers, the sheets, everything. Shook everything out, empty the waste paper basket. Went on my hands and knees all around the room, and I could not find them. So right before they come home from school, I thought, well, I'm going to go look again. When I went up to look the second time, on top of the made bed was Heather's rosary beads, as nice as you please.
They had come back.
They had come back.
Have there been other incidents in the home of disappearance of objects other than what we have related? What, Jack?
One of the things I think, the first time that anything really started to be missing was over my mother's.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
My mother would have, again, not anything of real value, just something that she would notice that was gone because she uses it constantly or frequently. Like her makeup kits would be missing. And of course my mother would say to the girls, did you take my makeup kits? Because the girls were starting to use, just the 2 older girls were just starting to use makeup and stuff like that, or maybe the babies took them, the twins. And my mother would have jewelry missing. And it would be missing for a couple of days, and then it would turn back up. In almost the same exact spot where it was found to be missing. But it was found always in an obvious place.
Oh, yeah.
Or her spoons, I believe. All her spoons were taken out of her drawer. And she was, you know, blaming the kids, saying, you guys are digging in the yard, you're taking all my spoons. But then she never realized that all her spoons were gone. So her spoons started showing up a couple at a time. It took several days for all her spoons to come back.
Very, very par for the course, really.
It has
very
taken,
common for this type of thing.
It has taken sheets and towels and baking pans, household items. It takes, not that it's expensive, or just enough for you to know that it's missing. When you go to use it, it's gone outside. Well, where is all my brown towels? And I used to say to the kids, what do you do? Take them to school and leave them in your locker for a month? Or no, I had a yellow one today. So it was, after a while, one brown towel was returned, then another one, then another one.
They'd be returned to the obvious place.
Right, they would be returned right where you thought they were in the first place.
My mother also, speaking about obvious, my mother a couple of months ago wanted to make something which required canned mushrooms. So she knew she had 2 cans of mushrooms downstairs in the cellar where she stores her canned foods, because she bought them specifically for this purpose. She was making the steak sauce. So she told my father when he was down, you know, would you bring up the mushrooms? So he went down to look for the mushrooms. They were gone. Now, she knew she bought them. She knew she had them. So obviously she couldn't find them. So my dad was going to the store. So she told my dad, pick up 2 more cans of mushrooms, you know, on your way back. So he brought them back. So she used them. She went back downstairs for something else, and there they were, sitting right where they were originally. And, you know, type of things like that. It's obvious. And
Obvious.
she has a pair of, my mother also has a pair of slacks that she wears, daily slacks around the house, okay?
Right.
And she likes them because they're nice and soft and everything.
Yeah.
And one day she couldn't find them. She knew she washed them, pressed them, and she put them in her drawer. The next day, she went to get them, and they were gone. Now, they were missing for a couple of days, and then they showed right back up in the same drawer, in the same place that she had them previous.
Just things to be annoying.
Correct.
Cause problems, maybe cause arguments amongst the family members, or just to cause a lot of, you know, turmoil and trouble.
The biggest problem we had in relationship to that, causing the problem between the families, the only problem we had that we can recall was my aunt was staying over my mother's for a couple of years because she was, you know, trying to get an apartment over here at the high-rise for elderly people, okay? And we noticed in the summertime that my mother, no, my aunt were talking to Janet and I. So this
They
went on-
weren't talking with
They
you?
weren't talking to us at all. They were ignoring us. So I told Janet, I said, Janet, we can't let this thing go on any longer. I said, you got to confront my mother and find out what's going on. So she went over to my mother's one day, and she talked to my mother. She says, Mom, why are you mad at us? And my mother said, well, she said, you should ask us. She said, you and Jack had such a terrible argument a couple of weeks ago, and the foul language you were using. She said, I never heard of such a thing, and I never knew that you two were capable of ever having an argument like that. And Janet and I looked at each other, and of course we didn't have no argument like that, and we don't use that kind of language, and it never happened. But yet her and my aunt
Both heard that.
both heard it clearly coming from our house, and we never had an argument. As a matter of fact, we had probably even had a tiff in 6 months prior to that. So it was completely you know, an isolated situation where Janet and I don't argue all the time, so we would remember. And the last time we could remember we even had even any kind of words at all was like 6 months prior to that. And they were mad at us for a couple of weeks, and we could not convince my mother, by the way. Even after we talked to her, everything was fine.
That it was not you.
Up until my mother had the realization of what was going on in this house, and Ed and yourself, when you came here, you explained to us that
Why this occurs.
why this occurs, and then my mother believed, you know, finally that it wasn't us that was arguing. It was, you know, it was something that, you know, made it
happen.
made her hear it, and my aunt hear it.
Exactly. Very similar to what you heard, Janet, just the other night, when you said that you could hear for the very first time in this side of the house a male and a female voice,
Right.
but it was not coming from this side.
That's right. We were laying in bed, and we lay and we listen to things every night before we go to bed, and we thought it was his mother and dad. We could hear this woman's voice, and we could hear this man's voice. You couldn't make out the words they were saying. It sounded like it was coming through the wall. You knew they were talking, but you couldn't make out the words.
Magic whispering.
Well, it was, yeah, or even a little bit louder than a whisper, like a muffled kind of a voice. And he said, oh, it's my mother. I said, I don't think so. It doesn't sound like your mother. And this went on for quite a while with the talking. And he was concerned because he thought, well, maybe it's really starting to act up over on my mother's side now. Maybe they're walking back and forth talking about something. But yet you couldn't hear them walking. You only heard the walking once. So today he asked her, and she said, no, Jack, we were in bed. She said, we weren't talking.
In other words, they
My
were
dad
asleep.
wasn't awake.
Right.
My dad
that's
wasn't
right.
awake, and she was awake, but my dad wasn't, and
And so she wasn't talking to anybody. There
Right.
was nobody there.
But yet you could hear it, both of us heard it together.
now, you see, if you would ask me whose voice I heard,
Mm-hmm.
I would swear that it was my mother and my father.
Talking.
Right.
Just
Now,
as they swore it was you two people
Right,
talking on
but
this
to
side.
me it didn't sound that way.
but my
No.
mother heard people talking
Mhm.
last night. She said she did hear people talking, but she didn't know where it was coming from.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
all she can say.
Now, was that in this part of the house, or was it
She thought it was on
on her side?
she
Yeah.
thought it was on our side.
Okay.
And we thought it was on her side.
You both heard it.
Right.
Both families
Both
heard,
families heard it.
heard that talking
Right.
at the exact same time.
Right.
Jack, if you were tried to, or if you had to put it in words, what was going on in this house, what would you say is happening in this home of yours?
Very hard to explain. My own my own personal feeling before I talk to you and Ed. I would say that the house was haunted.
You do believe your home is haunted.
Absolutely.
Do you believe your home is
There's no doubt. And if you had told me this a year ago, I would have probably told you that you needed a psychiatrist. But I am a believer that this house is really haunted.
Thank you very much, both
You're
of you,
welcome.
for your interview this afternoon.
Okay, Lorraine.
We're in the home of Janet and Jack Smurl in Pittston, Pennsylvania. I don't really remember on the tape earlier, Ed, getting the full address of this home, which is at 330 Chase Street, West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It is February 14th, 1986. The living room that we are in, we gave reference in the interview to a lamp that has a three-way switch on it, although there is not a three-way bulb in it, that would keep going on and off. The door just behind you, Al, is the door that the family on many occasions not only would find ajar, but would actually find open against that wall. We'll now go on to the second floor level, where most of the phenomena that has occurred has actually taken place. Members of the Smurl family, Dawn, the twins, Heather, their German Shepherd, Jason, are all sitting here. These are the four children, their dog, and of course, Janet Smurl. Hey, Jason.
Mom, I have to go to the bathroom. Want to go now? Mom, I have to go to the bathroom.
Notice that this stairway, as you're coming up, is very, very narrow. Now, Jack was sitting on the very top step. One of our researchers was perhaps in this area talking to Jack. They watched the dog, Jason, who is a full-grown German Shepherd, walk across. He wasn't coming down the stairs. He would have had to pass the two men in water to come down the stairs. And Jack decided to call the dog because he couldn't see him for a couple of minutes. And the dog came from downstairs up. No possible way that the dog could have gone from where he was up here. There was no other way for him to come from this level down without using these stairs, and he did not. This is the hallway where the family has experienced the rappings all the way down the hallway, where they have experienced the voices, some sort of magic whispering, but they also are able to distinguish the fact that there are a conversation going on between a man and a woman. We're now entering the master bedroom. The master bedroom is where a good deal of the phenomena has occurred, where Janet, sleeping on this side of the bed, has been pulled out by her legs. The dog, Jason, will sleep on this side, I gave reference earlier to the howling noise that would come from the dog. This is where he would be laying. This is where Jack was hit. But I think one of the most outstanding things is the fact, I will show you how these drawers work. Now it's kind of hard to have them swing, and yet this is how they will swing back and forth at great speed when the infestation or phenomena is occurring. Actually, I'm able to move them a little easier than we were able to move them early on. At times, it will only be that Janet would find it a little ajar. But on this one occasion, when she was in the room, the door was going in and out very, very quickly. These are also the walls where they will hear and experience the rapping sounds. This television set, although I don't remember discussing it during our interview, unplugged or not on, will become illuminated like a bright light. No picture on it, but they will actually see that light up. They will get a buzzing sound that seems to be associated with this tape recorder that is on. The buzzing sound actually is probably not coming from the tape itself, but actually altering the state of consciousness of the people in the room, Jack and Janet. This is the room occupied by the 13-year-old girl and the 16-year-old girl. Most of the phenomena that occurs in this room seems to happen in and around the closet area, although in this room we have had the disappearance and reappearance of personal objects of the two teenage girls. This is the closet area, and especially in the back of this closet, where they will hear much of the rapping that takes place in this bedroom in particular. Now, in the room of the twins, the two little 7-year-old girls, there seems to be very little that actually happens in this room. This is a very tiny, little small room, although the family described something that was rather strange. When they first purchased this home, this room was a little bit larger, but they have enlarged their bathroom, which has kind of reduced the size of this room. But it was on this wall when they first moved in that there was an opening. Not an opening where you would have a stove or any form of heat, because there was no chimney behind there. And then up from that hole was a dark mark on the walls that no soap and water, no detergents, and certainly 4 coats of paint could not cover. That is the reason why this room is paneled. The last room up here is, of course, the bathroom. There has been a great deal that has occurred in here. They will hear the water, especially from next door, running. They have experienced the toilet flushing on like 30 times on one occasion. Jack was standing when he actually was witness to the toilet flush in front of him. He then picked up the top of the toilet box to adjust the ball, thinking that something was wrong. Actually, nothing at all was wrong when the rapping started right on the toilet box, the commode itself. It is in this area that Jack's medical bracelet had been missing from. It had actually dematerialized. As of this point, it has still not materialized. So that is really the majority of what had taken place on this stairway, or on this level. On this stairway, though, I know that there was one occasion, maybe Janet can explain it in a little better order than I would be able to, regarding what had taken place to dawn, or what you presume may have taken place to Dawn when she was found at the bottom?
Oh, that was to Shannon.
Oh, wait, that was to Shannon. I'm sorry.
One night about 1 o'clock in the morning, Shannon and Karen, whose bedroom is over here behind Lorraine, Jack and I were laying in bed talking. We had had a lot of experiences that day. And while we were talking, we heard this terrible bang. And Shannon was laying at the bottom of the landing there. Now, if you walk in my hallway or my steps, they do have a creaking noise, so that if she were to walk through the hallway, we would have heard her. Because we always know when the children are up, we can tell you who is going to the bathroom and who is walking. Shannon was not walking. We did not hear any footsteps at all. She was found at the bottom of the landing, and she did not remember how she got there.
Jack, or not, John and Mary Smurl, we are here at the home of the senior Smurls. We have been investigating the phenomena taking place in their son and daughter-in-law's home. This is the other half of the duplex home at 332 now, Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Jack, or I'm persistent in calling you Jack, John and Mary have also experienced phenomena on this side. While they were away from this home, there were noises that would take place. They would hear this from the other side. There would be nobody in this home at all on this side of the house. When Mary and John came home, they had found a china cabinet in the kitchen had actually been moved. How far away from the wall had that been moved, Mary?
I say about 18 inches.
About 18 inches, full of china.
Yeah.
Right? Now, is that something that you could really move that easily?
No, it's hard, very hard to move.
I could move it if she
Well,
could.
no.
But nobody was in the house.
Nobody.
Nobody was in this home at all. Now, there have been other things that you have been witness to. You people have experienced heavier pounding sounds than they have next door. Now, you're a little bit hard of hearing. I understand you
He is, yeah.
lost 60% of your hearing.
Yeah.
But you could hear these noises.
Oh, yes.
Oh, what did you hear, John?
Like a loud crash.
Like a loud, how close to you did that occur?
You think it was right on top of you.
Like it was right on top
Right
of you?
alongside the bed.
It was like where the night table would be?
Yeah,
No,
between that
it
and the
would be
closet.
over like on the other side of the bed, or else, it was either there or up over the top, like, you know what I mean, in the attic, like, because if you hit it up there, it would be the same noise practically, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, but we had the pounding in the closets, and on my night table every night, I have it.
Mm-hmm.
And first I didn't think, you know, that it was that, but it surely was.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when we went down to my daughter's for Thanksgiving, and we were gone from Wednesday until Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And my son couldn't go, him and his family, because he had to fix his bathroom. The tile was coming out. So he heard water running, and and it's like somebody walking around over here. So he kept listening and listening. He said, Janet, he said, you know, he said, I think there's somebody over in my mother's house. And so what is he going to do? But he took the gun and come over. And he looked all around, but he couldn't find anything. But my cupboard doors were open, and there was water in the sink.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there shouldn't have been any water in the sink, because when we're gone how many days, from Wednesday until Sunday.
Right, there'd be no reason why the water would be there.
Yeah, and then we went out another night to the doctor's, and Jackie heard this water running, and the toilet flushing, kept flushing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came over, wasn't it? He came over, and he looked to see if there was anything wrong with it. There wasn't. There was nothing wrong with it. It was just that it was flushing.
Now, you were in this room, Mary, in your living room
I was
here.
sitting over there. You mean about the animal?
Yes,
I was
explain
sitting
about
right there, and my husband went to play cards that night. It was a card night.
Mm-hmm.
And Dawn, she was left back because Jack and them went up to the Ponderosa, and I was here by myself. And I turned the lights off and just had the TV light on because I figured, well, there was enough light for me, and I was just happy, sitting here.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, I just happened to look over, like over here, and I saw this animal there, but I just went like this, and just when I went like that, it was gone. It looked just like a puppy, like, you know what I mean? Like one of these new puppies, like, that was just born. But it didn't have I couldn't see the head that was down, and I couldn't see no tail.
And what color was it?
It was sort of a brownish, like,
Dark?
dark, yeah,
Dark color.
Yeah, dark color.
Did that frighten you?
Well, for the moment,
You were startled.
yeah, I was talking, who else was I going to scream to?
Yeah, you
There
were all
was
by
nobody,
yourself.
there was nobody in the both sides.
Well, Lorraine, when I go home, we'll be lighting the house.
Oh, when you
She
came
was-
home
she was
that night,
scared.
every night, I think she was scared then, John. Now, John, is there anything other than what your wife has just explained that you have personally witnessed in this?
Well, the one morning, I don't know, was it last week or the week before? When I get up in the morning, I get up, I leave her asleep.
He dresses in the back bedroom.
And in the back bedroom, I have my clothes, so I don't disturb her. So I open up and get a clean shirt, and my pants and stuff, and I keep socks, stuff on the sideboard. But you hear the pipes now. I thought it was the pipes now. But the heat don't overheat wasn't on. Naturally, you get a knocking
When the heat is cutting in.
when it's expanding or contracting. But when I reached in, where I could reach the whole of the pipe, cold.
The pipes were cold. Well, you've sure had your share.
Well, we used to have the smell. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
a mold. And we'd go to church and come back, and sure enough, that mold was there. But then it would leave, right away. But, and then to me now, it didn't bother him, but it used to throw up like a soot. And in my nose, and I couldn't hardly breathe. And I used to say, that went on for how many months? And I said to Janet, I said, my heavens, how long do I have to go like this? I said, with that thing throwing out that soot. And, but see, I used to see forms, like, you know what I mean? I went into my bedroom one night, it was dusk. And this form came out from like the back of the door, like just like this, And I went back, and I went back out into the hall. And so then I didn't tell him, I just told him tonight, that I seen a form a couple nights ago coming down the steps there, and all of a sudden it disappeared. And then I saw it again, where did I say? Oh, the bathroom, when I went to the bathroom last night. And it seemed like it came from the curtain in the bathroom, like, across.
From that area.
Yeah.
Now, how tall was the form there?
Well, it just like was, like shot, like was going through the air, like, you know what I mean, like in the air or
Yeah.
something,
Would it be the size of an adult person?
More so, like, yeah.
Was it shadowy, or could you see
Like
through
a
it?
black, like a shadowy, like, color like
Black
that.
form.
Yeah, form.
Like a black form?
Yeah. And but the knocking, we've heard the knocking now in the front bedroom. We've heard it now, but every night it's knocking on my side because the fella got it the last time he was here.
Yes.
Yeah, he got it. Michael got it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Michael got it on tape.
Yeah.
That's what Chris has posted.
And now it's in.
tonight.
And Jackie last night, or not last night it was. And the night before, he sprayed that incense. Like he opened the door, in there. And see, I had Christmas bows and things in a bag. And so when I looked today, I opened the door because I had to hang my coat up in there because it was hanging for 2 days. I was kind of afraid.
Yes.
And so I opened the door and I thought, well, here goes. So I seen these here bows all in the front of the door, like where they might have been,
Disrupted.
yeah, disrupted in there. And but Jack said toward the last he sprayed it once, and then he said when it was started to pound, he said he just opened the door and give it some more,
Right.
And you have to laugh at him sometimes.
I know.
Really.
Mary, when Michael too, when Michael was here, we were out talking, we talked for about an hour, I guess. So Michael went over to Jackie, and we were going to get the incense. So she come in, and I come in, we sit down. Pretty soon there's a knock on the door.
And we always come in, come in.
Nobody there.
Wait, no.
Yeah.
Knocked again. How the Christ can you do the door locked?
You didn't even...
We didn't lock the door. The door was locked. And I said, well, gee, because when they left to go over the house, I heard him done the rest of the dishes that was there and all, you know, and I didn't even touch the door. Neither did he. And so then we went to for ashes the other day, and I know I locked the door.
Mhm.
And so here when we come back, the door was unlocked.
Just the same as what Janet and Jack experienced
Yeah.
in their home.
Yeah.
Let me ask both of you, as I asked your son and daughter-in-law, independent of each other, what do you feel is wrong in these two apartments here? Do you feel that the phenomena is of a haunting nature? What do you really feel is
Yeah,
happening?
I think so, because you feel very uncomfortable.
How about you, John?
But we try to keep our
For me to
our
say
goal.
what I wake up because
You've never experienced it before, huh?
No, I had a rough life growing up, and I swear to God I never treat my grandchildren or my children bad. I never did.
No, I don't
No,
think
I
you'd be
mean-
that type. Yeah,
But,
you don't know.
I believe.
You believe. Especially when you're experiencing it.
No, well, you didn't even have to explain, just to listen to it, because I know she knows
Make stories.
the story.
Some people will say, oh, well, how old is your mother-in-law? Oh, she's so-and-so. Oh, she must be going through the, what do they call it? What do they call it?
Change of life or
No.
senile?
Senile.
Oh, Mary, I would
And-
never take you for
And what do you
senile.
call it? Janet says, holy cow, she said, my mother-in-law is anything but senile. She said,
Oh, no.
the kids don't let her get senile.
No.
No, because everybody, even the doctors, they couldn't understand how old I was or anything.
I'm very, very surprised.
Yeah.
Tell us, are you, I imagine you're very proud of, how old are both of you?
I'm 70, well, I'll be 71 in June.
I'll be 72.
Well, God bless you. Neither one of you looks that.
49 years this August.
49. Oh, next year you'll be your 50th.
Yeah.
Never lived that long.
And
Oh,
my
you
daughter
will.
is going to be my daughter is going to be her 25th
Oh,
this
that's
year in
beautiful.
July.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, thank you, both of you, very, very much.
Well, we had trouble, you know, up in the Ponderosa.
Oh, I know.
We just got a new camper, and was pounding, and we didn't know what it was. And tell her what happened to the door. That when we're ready to come home, and the door used to open and shut all the time.
We
Good.
worked fine for a couple of weeks. We were all ready to come home. We couldn't close the door.
Jackie had to
We had
go
a
over.
jacket up and everything else.
Yeah,
You mean
To
in
close
your
it.
camper while
In the
you were
camper,
camping?
The
yeah.
outside door.
the outside door.
We had everything put away, and the water disconnected, the electric things put away, and so we were going to close the door and go. We were going there for a
No,
little money.
and Jack was all tired out just trying to do that, and we were tired out. We were a nervous wreck, and then we had pounding on the back of our camper. We had somebody trying to get in the door, pounding on the door, and he went there to look,
I thought it
and
was
there was
Dawn.
nobody there. We thought it was Dawn, because Dawn was supposed to come and sleep that night with us. But she came in later on, but she wasn't out there because he went out.
And when you're camping, you only take your shoes off.
Yeah, that's right.
It's cold up there.
That's right. Well, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate
You probably
it.
got everything done.
Oh, I
from
did.
before,
Thank you
yeah.
so very much.
Yeah.
It's my bad side, you know.
Well, we
Thank you.
can't understand, I mean,
You
this
might
your
remind
stuff.
me of Chris, my other nephew.
Yeah,
grandson.
Chris that's there.
He is Chris.